Elias Rowan had spent his entire life studying theories that other physicists mocked. He believed time wasn't a river flowing in one direction. It was an ocean, and somewhere out there, someone had already learned to swim in it. But nothing prepared him for the day his theory proved true. 1. The impossible discovery. It began with a signal, a short, rhythmic pulse from deep beneath the ice of Antarctica. Too precise to be geological, too advanced to be human. The UN dispatched a multinational scientific team, but it was Elias Rowan who first recognized the pattern. "This isn't a beacon," he said, tracing the waveforms on the screen. "It's a countdown." The countdown reached 0 at 3:14 a.m. The ice trembled, and a colossal metallic structure emerged, smooth, seamless, and humming with energy far beyond anything Earth could produce. At the center of its chamber sat a ring of dark alloy, suspended by nothing, rotating silently. A machine, but not one built by human hands. 2. The first entry. Inside the chamber, symbols glowed along the walls, curved, elegant strokes that shifted like liquid. Elias felt them vibrating through his skull, as if the machine were reading him. The moment he touched the central ring, it expanded with a pulse of blue light, swallowing him whole. He didn't fall. He shifted. Colors twisted into geometric shapes, gravity unraveling. When his vision stabilized, Elias stood beneath a familiar Antarctic sky, except the stars were wrong. Brighter, younger, the ice shelf was gone. In its place stretched a vast forest of colossal ferns and thunderous reptilian roars. He had traveled millions of years into Earth's past. The machine worked, and it wasn't human. 3. The message from the past. Elias wasn't alone. The machine had brought him into a circular chamber of transparent metal, perched atop a cliff overlooking primeval Earth. Inside stood 3 crystalline figures, humanoid yet translucent, their bodies flickering with inner light. They spoke without mouths, voices echoing inside his mind. "We are the Astrix," they said. "We came from beyond your star long, before your species walked upright." They explained the terrifying truth. The time machine had not been created for exploration. It was a warning system. Earth was on a collision course with a temporal fracture, a tear in time caused by a catastrophic event thousands of years in the future. In their era, the Astrix had sensed a tear forming and built the machine to reach whoever evolved after them. "We cannot interfere with your timeline," they said. "But you can." They sent him back with a single encrypted formula, a way to stabilize the fracture before it ever formed. But the greatest danger waited in the future, not the past. For the future that shouldn't exist. Elias activated the machine again. Another blinding surge, colors folding inward, time twisting like a ribbon, and he emerged into a ruined Earth, charred skyscrapers, burning oceans, silence thick as ash. The temporal fracture had consumed everything. Hovering above the ruins, its surface warped and jagged, was a tear itself, a rip in reality, pulsing like a heartbeat, and someone was standing at its edge, a figure in a sleek black suit, a human, watching the world die. "Welcome, Elias Rowan," the figure said without turning around. "I've been expecting you." It was him, an older version, scarred, hollow-eyed, and filled with knowledge no mind should hold. "When I first used a machine," the older Elias said, "I realized time can't be changed, only rewritten, and every rewrite demands a sacrifice." In his version of the future, he had tried hundreds of times to fix the fracture. Every attempt failed. Every timeline collapsed. Except one. In the only stable version, the older Elias whispered, "You never return from the past." Because Elias himself was a catalyst. His discovery of the machine, his research, his experiments, each step pushed humanity toward the event that eventually tore time open. The machine wasn't a miracle. It was a trap, a way for time itself to delete the variable causing the fracture. Him. 5. The choice that changed everything. The older Elias raised a device, a temporal disruptor capable of erasing the younger version from reality. "This is the only way," he murmured. "I've seen every ending." But the younger Elias stepped closer, calm. "Then let's write one you didn't see." He tapped the formula the Astrix gave him into his wrist tablet. The device pulsed with brilliant blue light. A harmonic field spread outward, interacting with the temporal tear, stabilizing it, healing it. The older Elias staggered backward, eyes widening in disbelief. You fixed it? Without dying? No, the younger one said softly. I fixed you. Because the true fracture wasn't the machine. It was a future self who lost hope. As the tear closed, the older version began to dissolve, released from the doomed timeline he had been trapped in. Thank you, he whispered before fading like smoke. 6. The machine's true purpose. The world reformed around Elias. He was back in the Antarctic chamber. Snow fell quietly outside. The machine stood silent once more. But this time, the symbols on the wall remained still, no longer shifting. The Astrix message completed. The timeline healed. The machine was no longer needed. As the structure sank back beneath the ice, sealing itself forever, Elias realized the truth. It was never meant to be used repeatedly. It was built for one traveler, one journey, one repair. A machine that didn't belong to Earth, but was built for Earth. And its mission was complete. The aftermath, the truth, and the ending that changes everything. Elias Rowan returned to a world he knew, but nothing felt the same. The time machine had vanished beneath the ice. His older self was erased. The temporal fracture was healed. Yet the silence around him felt too deliberate, like the world was holding its breath. He wasn't done. Not even close. 7. The world that doesn't remember. Back at the UN research base, everything was normal, suspiciously normal. Scientists were recalibrating instruments. Engineers were repairing drones. The expedition commander barked orders over the comms. No one remembered the machine. No one remembered the signal. No one remembered the world-ending vision of the future. When Elias demanded answers, Dr. Arjun Patel frowned. Elias, what are you talking about? We came here to study ice core anomalies. That's all. Their memories had been rewritten. Time had reset. Only Elias remained outside its correction. But why? 8. The artifact that shouldn't exist. Late that night, Elias combed through the recovered equipment, desperate to find anything that would prove he wasn't losing his mind. Then he saw it. A small, circular device inside an evidence crate. Smooth metal, etched with shifting alien symbols. A fragment of the machine. He froze. This survived the reset, but how? The symbols lit up at his touch, and the chamber around him dissolved. 9. The Astrix return. Elias found himself once again face to face with the crystalline alien beings. But something was different. They flickered. Their forms were weak, as if struggling to maintain coherence. Elias Rowan. Their voices echoed. Your actions have stabilized one fracture, but the flow remains wounded. The flow? Elias asked. Time itself. The Astrix explained the deeper truth. The fracture he sealed was only the beginning. Humanity was on the verge of unlocking technologies that would destabilize the universe, experiments that would multiply fractures across the timeline. Elias had simply prevented the first domino, but the others were already falling. You must make a choice, the Astrix said. Return home with your memories altered like the others, or accept the burden of becoming a guardian of the flow. A guardian, someone who travels outside fixed time, correcting distortions before they destroy reality. What happens if I refuse? Elias asked quietly. Then your timeline will collapse again. Humanity will suffer endlessly across countless variants. What happens if I agree? You will never belong to any single timeline again. You will be unstuck, a wanderer through histories that will never remember you. He would sacrifice his place in the world, his identity, his future, but he had already seen the consequences of doing nothing. Elias closed his eyes. I'll do it. 10. The machine reborn. The Astrix merged a fragment in his hand with a shard of glowing crystal. A miniature time ring formed, small enough to fit on his wrist. This is the key, they said. It will anchor you, protect you, allow you to navigate the flow. The chamber shook violently. The aliens flicker harder, cracks spreading through their crystalline bodies. What's happening? Elias shouted. Our time ended millions of years ago, the Astrix whispered. We exist now only through echoes preserved in the machine. And those echoes are fading. One reached out, touching Elias's chest. You carry our final hope. Light erupted. The Astrix disintegrated into shimmering dust. Elias was alone again. But this time he was transformed. 11, first mission, the ship above the moon. Elias awoke inside a strange, sterile corridor. No ice, no snow, no UN base. He was aboard a massive vessel orbiting Earth. Human-built, futuristic, decades ahead of his time. A holographic interface flickered to life on his wrist. Temporal destabilization detected. Location, lunar orbit. Year, 2094. A scientist rushed past him, shouting into a communicator. Core breach. Temporal frequencies are spiking. Shut down the experiment. Another voice. It's too late. The reactor is phasing out of sync. They were experimenting with temporal energy, the very kind that destroyed the future Elias saw. This was the moment the next fracture would form. Elias sprinted toward the reactor chamber. Alarms roared. Doors slammed shut. Reality flickered like damaged film. He activated the Astrix key. Time slowed. Colors warped. He stepped through the phasing door as if it were made of fog. At the heart of the chamber, a glowing sphere pulsed violently, distorting everything around it. The first temporal reactor on Earth. The spark that would doom humanity. Elias placed both hands on the sphere and whispered, "Not this time." He channeled the Astrix harmonic formula. Blue light spread through the reactor. The sphere calmed. Reality stabilized. The fracture was never born. He collapsed, exhausted, but alive. When he opened his eyes, scientists surrounded him in awe. "What did you do?" one asked. Elias smiled softly. "Stop the future." 12. A man without a time. Elias stayed aboard the ship only long enough to ensure the reactor was dismantled. The astronauts thanked him, but none recognized him. None remembered his name. When he returned to Earth, it wasn't 2025. It was 2121, or the version of it that existed now. Every timeline he saved erased his connection to the previous one. Every intervention pushed him further from a fixed reality. He was becoming exactly what the Astrix warned. A traveler, a guardian, a man without an era. But he wasn't afraid, because he finally understood the machine's purpose. It wasn't created for the Astrix. It wasn't created for humans. It wasn't created to explore time. It was created to protect it. And Elias Rowan was its final guardian. 13. The ending that isn't an ending. Elias stood on a hill overlooking a future city glowing with neon lights. One he would never belong to but had helped save. The key pulsed on his wrist. A new alert flickered. Temporal distortion detected. Year, 1473. Location, Florence, Italy. Anomaly, unauthorized future technology in early Renaissance. Elias smirked. Someone's playing with time again. He activated the key. Space folded. The hill dissolved. The universe twisted around him. And Elias Rowan stepped into the flow, not to change history, not to rewrite it, but to protect it. The time machine wasn't built on Earth, but its guardian most definitely was. The end.